So, week 12, making it Monday. How fabulous that you could join me again. And this week we're actually going to make what I called a slim pouch, which this is what it looks like. And it of course has a little boxy bottom to it. I hope you can see that it's got a little boxy bottom. So as long as I don't forget, that's what we'll do. One of the last things I have a habit of forgetting. So I'm going to try and follow the instructions as you've got them in the pattern, and I find then that's easier, isn't it? So that's what we're making tonight, and we're actually going to be putting a zip in. Now please don't be afraid of putting a zip in. They're really easy. It really helps if you've got a zipper foot, but it's not compulsory. We can always manage without a zipper foot, but the zipper foot is great because it means you can get quite close to the teeth, and that really does help. There are quite a few ways of actually putting this together, but what I thought I'd do is follow the pattern as I've written it, and then as I'm doing things I can talk to you about perhaps a little alternative here and there, because there's always ways that we can improve what we do, isn't there? So I'm just going to pop this down, because this is the other one that I made. Isn't it pretty? And I think, was it last week? One of them I've given away, or perhaps I'm mistaken. Perhaps this is the one I'm going to give away on the Facebook page, Lizzy Curtis. It may be that I've lost the other one. Because you know what? I don't know about your room or where you sew. Can you ever find anything? I'm blowed I can't find anything. So, so I'll be giving one of these away. So all you need to do is comment. Now, because I can't see a thing, I'm going to turn my iPad sideways, and I'm hoping... Yes, I've got comments. You're there. Thank you so much. And I do like a bit of confirmation that somebody's watching. Although of course I could just record it and that'll be fine as well. Anyway, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to, like I say, I'm going to follow the instructions. So yes, so if you comment, doesn't matter what you comment, just hi will do. I'll pick a name out of the hat and I'll give you one of these. I don't know which one to give. You tell me. Lots of flowers, little flowers. Lots of flowers, little flowers, yeah? This is brand new fabric that you haven't seen yet. It's Riley Blake. It's coming up on Sunday with me on TV in the UK if you're watching from outside of the UK. So this is coming up on Sunday, and isn't it glorious? This is actually only one of about 12 different designs. Honestly, I had this heap. Have you seen the picture on my Lizzy Curtis Facebook page of the heap of fabric? Far too delicious for words. So you say big flowers, little flowers. I think that's what I said, didn't I? Anyway, you'll have to tell me. You remember better than me. Now, most of the time I'm going to be going from the side angle so you can see exactly what I'm doing. But every now and again, if I can remember how to click the right thing, then I will be coming up to say hi. But most of the time it'll be, you know, on this side camera here. And it comes down here so we can see into the sewing machine a little bit better. So you see all my faults. No comments about that, please. Now, and so hello to everybody. I'm not going to list you all because this is going on to YouTube as well, and I do get a lot of negative comments from YouTubers about, you know, talking too much and saying hello to people. So never mind. So this is project 12. I'm not going to say week 12 because we had those few weeks off, didn't we? But it's project 12. And this is a free download on my website. So it's lizzycurtis.com. If you look along the tabs, it says shop. And then as you hover over the word shop, all the sort of categories, if you like, come up underneath. And I think it's either the first one or the second one. It says free patterns. So click on that. All 12 projects are in there. You can have all 12 if you want to. If you pop them into your basket all in one go, you can put free in the coupon box and then check out and you'll get them for free. If you want to pay me for them and you think it's worth it, then thank you very much. But they are free for you. So when you go to print, it's quite ink heavy. I say this every week because this front page, I love it, but it's a bit print heavy. So in other words, you're going to use a lot of ink on that. So what I've done this week, just as a treat, is if we take that front cover away, This is the regular pattern front, if you like, and I've actually this time I've named it Project 12 Slim Pouch. So at least if you put just that in your files for storage, you'll know exactly what it is, and I've actually titled it this week, so I thought that's a good idea. So every week we're improving on what we do and making it better for you guys, which I think is really important. So let's have a look. I think my camera's gone off, so I might have to message John, so just bear with. Let's just message him. This does this to me from time to time, so hopefully it won't. So I'll just send him a help message, and as long as he's not watching football, we'll be fine, because I can't go to the side view until a little bit of technology needs sorting. So when you look at the pattern, it's quite explanatory. There's lots of information on there. So it tells you what the outer fabric is that you need, the lining fabric, the wadding, the batting, the zip, which needs to be, now I've said at least 12 inches long, because I like to have a bit of an overhang. If you're not used to putting a zip in, I like to have it a lot longer. Now you might think that's ever so wasteful, but I do use zip on a roll, and zip on a roll is really affordable, and when you think about how much yardage, meterage you're getting. So I always think, you know what, you can spare another couple of inches on each end to allow that slider to come out of the way, and then you can bring it in when you're ready. I think that's such a good idea. And then matching thread, which I think is sort of self-explanatory really. So all you need to do is cut your fabric out. I like to put the wadding on the back straight away. You've got the pictures of what that looks like with the lining and the wadding and the zip as well. But what we're going to do first of all is pop the zip in. Oh, I know, don't be frightened. I'm going to cut my zip first. So this is a zip on a roll if you've never seen it. And you can just move the sliders along, and you can also buy extra sliders when you've used a lot of the sliders up. You can buy extra. So I'm going to cut myself a generous 12 inches. I'll get my slider out of the way, because that's right on the 12 inches there. Let's see, oh, these will do. There we go. So just cutting my zip there. That's lovely. And do remember to put a slider on, have one on your piece of zippage when you cut it. So I'm going to pop you over to the side camera now, hopefully, and we'll be able to see from the side how we're going to do. So let me just get my mouse there. Look at that. So we're on the side view now. So let's just get that set up ready. Now, so hopefully you'll see quite clearly now what we're going to do. So I've got my lining, so we can pop that to the side for the moment. Now you could put the lining in at the same time, guys. You don't have to do this as I'm doing, but if you're new to stitching, then do one thing at a time. That's what I always say. It's better to do one thing at a time. So if you look at the pattern, it actually tells you to, let's just bring it in so we can see. It tells you to put the right side of your fabric to the right side of your zip, okay? And we've got a sort of a picture of half of it done, then half of it done again. Now I'm going to get that slider well out of the way. So let me get my clips in so it holds better. And we'll just clip that in place so you can see. I'll try and get my hands out of the way in a second. I'll just put 3 in there. Now, so you can see, if I hold it up, you've got the right side of your fabric, because obviously you're looking at the wadding. You've got the right side of your fabric face down onto the right side of your zip. Pop your zipper foot on, and we're going to stitch in there. Okay, we're going to stitch from there all the way across to the other side. Okay, now you can see also that the slider is well out of the way, so you don't even have to think about it. It's not in your radar, as they say. So let me just bring that machine in just a little bit more. I'm going to pop it under there straight away. Pop my foot down. Now my little zipper foot is it's a Juki foot, and it's I love it actually, but it doesn't go right up to the teeth, and you'll see that when I show you when I've stitched it. So all the way along. Now your zipper foot won't let you jump over the teeth. I know you can't see it there, but my zipper foot can feel where the edge of those teeth are, and it's not going to jump across. You could, if you wanted to, go from the back side, but actually I find it quite acceptable to go from this side. And like I say, that foot just hugs the teeth, and yours might be better if you've got a flat bottom zipper foot that's wide, which a lot of machines have. Then it's perfect. Perfect. So there's our first row of stitching, but what we need to do is now to stitch on the other side. So if I lift this up, and I'm going to flip it, so be aware that I've just flipped that. Now I've got right sides together of the pouch and right sides together of the zip. So you can see there how that looks, okay, and I'll show you again so you're totally clear on what I'm telling you. All I'm doing is putting the right side of my fabric here, that raw edge, along the right side of my zip, along the tape, sorry, and I'm just lining those up as best I can. So let me clip those in place. And like I said, you can absolutely do the lining at the same time. We don't actually stitch the first ½ inch of the lining, and that's why I decided to do this separately, because it does help. Because you'll have to cut it back. It'll all become clear as we go along. So there we are. So there is my other side, my other end, if you like, attached by clips to my zip. Okay, and you can see right side of the zip, there's the slider, and the right side of the fabric is face down onto the zip, and it's on the top part of that tape, look. And I'm going to be stitching, I stitched from this end, from there where my thumbnail is, there, and I'm going to be stitching all the way along there. Okay, and again, because the slider is well out of my way, it doesn't stress me out at all. I mean, zips don't anyway, but it means I don't have to think about lifting my foot, pivoting my needle, trying to jiggle that slider out of the way. It's just not there. I don't have to worry. So again, now you might find your fabric shifts a little bit as you stitch. It's almost inevitable unless you pin incredibly well. I'm afraid I'm not a pinner, so that never happens. So look, there is our sort of outside fabric, if you like, attached to the zip. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to attach the lining. Now in the instructions it says, let me have a look, so your lining, blah 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 blah. Yeah, we're going to stitch a ½ inch from the edge because at some point I want to top stitch. Okay, and there's two things you can do. You can either top stitch the whole lot together and cut a few stitches back, or you can top stitch now and just top stitch the outer piece, the lining piece, the outer fabric, and then do the lining separately. But I'll stick to what I said in the pattern, which is always a good thing to do. So now we need to attach the lining. Okay, so you think, well, how on earth do we do that? Well, if you look at the lining, so we want the right side. It's quite pale, this lining. It's just a pretty, I think it's John Loudon Flutterby. It's really quite pretty, and it's yeah, it's quite pretty in pink, but you use whatever you like. So what we need to do is to get this so it's on the right side of the zip. So we're going to get our lining. Here we go. So it's right sides of your lining onto the, well, it's kind of, if we could see the right side of the fabric, that's under there, but we're actually stitching it to the wrong side of the zip. Does that make sense? So when we stitch it, it's going to look beautiful inside. You can see how that looks. Okay, So let me just flip that again so you can see. So it's the right side of my lining, and I'm going to, I flipped the rest of my pouch back, by the way, and I'm going to stitch it along here. Okay, now what you can do is you could use your clips, but let's just flip it, and you're actually going to be stitching, you're actually going to be following the line of stitching that you just did on the outer piece, okay, because that makes it really neat. So I'm just going to do that really slowly again. So this is the right side of your fabric, your lining. You're looking at the wrong side of your zip there. I flipped the whole pouch back. There's my seam. And I'm just going to mirror image that seam. But like I said before, I don't want to stitch that first ½ inch. Okay, it's really important that we don't stitch that first ½ inch. So I'm popping it under my machine, and obviously you will pin it or clip it. So I'm literally following the line of my stitching. Little back stitch just to secure. So there's my lining. And I'm just folding that over and following my stitch line that I did before. And if it's a bit wriggly, you're following it wriggly. But make sure your lining is sitting comfortably underneath. Let me just try and show you what that looks like. Okay, so let's just finish off that row. And you're just following the, oh, you know what I did? I didn't finish at ½ inch, guys. Nobody reminded me. So I'm just going to cut that back because I really want to keep that free from stitching. So I'll turn that, just make sure that that's plenty cut, those stitches, yeah. Happy with that. So don't forget, you start and stop a ½ inch from the end. So if I show you the end that I actually did do that, you can see that that lining is still loose, okay? But we've just stitched on the same stitching that we did before, okay? So you're going to do the same on the other side. So flip your work over. So you're looking at this side, the fluffy side, if you like, and you're bringing this fabric up. Let's have a think what I'm doing. Let's get it the right way. You're bringing that fabric up. So if I can show you, you're actually, it kind of looks like you've got two bags going on, look. Okay, so you flipped it up. Let me show you again. Right sides of your lining to the wrong side of your zip. Okay. And when we look at it sideways, it looks like I said before, you've got two bags going on. And we're going to do exactly the same as we did before. Okay, we're going to start a ½ inch from one end, and we're going to start this end. So we're going to start ½ inch from there, and we're going to finish ½ inch from there. In fact, I'm going to follow the line of stitching that I did before. It's much easier to do it that way. And you'll wonder why, but as we get on, and this is only going to take another 10 minutes to stitch, you'll realise why. So I'm just following the line of my stitching, so you can see I'm just following that line down, making sure my lining is all nice and neat as I can get it. And like I said, if you've got a wriggly line, you're going to follow your wriggly line. So ½ inch to the end, and you're going to stop stitching. So let's have a look at it on there. So you can see that that end is loose and that end is loose. Okay. Now, this is where you need to fold it to be able to, well, we're going to top stitch. I do love a top stitch. So I'm going to open this up so we can top stitch. Now, the great thing about having this long zip, it means that that's exactly what I can do. I can open this right up, and before I open it up too much, I'm going to just stitch across that end there, just in case I get a bit gung-ho, as they say, and I lose my slider. You could pop a safety pin in there, you could put a quilting clip in there, anything to make your life easier. but I'm just securing that end of the zip there just to make sure that like I say, I'm not going to whiz my slider off the end. So let's see, I'll just cut that thread. There we go. And just look, I can take it right out of the way. But what it means is that I can turn this all through. Doesn't matter about the other end of the zip, as long as we look after this end. Because now look, you can see the other end is open, but that's great because it means that we can top stitch. Now, I'm going to give this a little iron, right? Because it needs to be super duper, nice and neat. Now with the top stitching, you're still going to be stopping and starting a ½ inch before the ends of your, where your side seams are. Okay, we don't want to stitch those ½ inches. That's important. You must think I'm crazy, but it's important. So just give that a nice iron. It always makes a lovely difference when you iron something. And we'll do the top as well. There we go, so it's really lovely and crispy. And again, so I bring it in so you can see, I'm only ironing, but you might as well see what I'm doing. Don't know if you can hear my dog barking, but she's in the garden. Let me bring that round so you can see. Let's do that. There we go. I've got it really zoomed in, which sort of limits my desk space a little bit. So let's iron that nicely as well. So don't forget, we're not stitching that first ½ inch on from the sides. It's really important. So I'll just get my little mat out of the way and bring the machine in again. So we're going to top stitch. So I'm going to start top stitching, like I say, about a ½ inch from the end. Now, like I said to you before, you could do the top stitching on this outer piece before you put the lining in, and you can take that top stitching right to the end, so you've got a super neat job. Because your seam allowance is only ¼ inch, but by the time you put the zip in and you've done your seams, you'll barely notice that you started a ½ inch away, I promise. Okay, so let's get it under the machine. Now you see I've still got my zipper foot on. Start with one back stitch, one. If you can manage one, brilliant. And then just top stitch all the way along, really nice and neat. I'll try and keep my hands out of the way. And look, if we hadn't have put that stitch in the end of that zip, you bet anything you like that would have come off by now. And you can see now why I leave a nice long end. It's so handy. So we're going to stop a ½ inch before the end, one back stitch only, because then it stays super neat. That is so super neat. It's just absolute gorgeous. And then we're going to come down the other side. So don't forget, you're starting ½ inch away from the edge, and one stitch, back stitch. You don't have to do a massive nest of back stitching. And what this is doing is securing your lining and your outer fabric all at the same time. Don't forget to stop, guys. Just one stitch is fine. And look at that beautiful bit of top stitching. Lovely and neat. Makes a huge difference. And of course what we've done is secured the lining as well. So now what we're going to do, we're going to turn that through again. I'm just going to move that zip, because what I want to do is move that zip into the pouch now, and that's perfectly fine there. I'll just cut my threads. So what we're going to do is split these pieces up. Okay, so let's try and do that without fiddling around too much. And what you've got now is two. Remember when we put the zip in, we had 2 pouches. Well, there's your 2 pouches, look, okay? And we're going to measure down from a fold, right, about 1½ inches. Now you'll think, what on earth? Let me move this out the way. So, I don't know. I'm just going to sort of say there, okay? I haven't measured that. So I folded my pouch, and this is probably 2 inches, to be honest. You can make it more, you can make it less. You could put that zip slap bang in the middle if you wanted to. This is down now to you and your creativity, but I'm guessing. So I'm guessing that's 2 inches. I think in the pattern I've said 1.5 inches. You do what you like, but that's what you want that to look like, okay? So what I'll do is, I've got some really lovely new pins. I've just wanted an excuse to use my pins. So I'm using my pins, guys. Very rarely use pins. So I'm just pinning these top bits together. Sorry, the side bits, so you can't see a thing. I might zoom out a little bit. Let me see if I can do that without juddering you. Let's see. Not sure. Oh, that's too far. Hold on. Bear with. Bear with. That's a bit better. So as you can see, I've just pinned that so it's nice and neat. I've flattened this out, so mind your hands with the pins, so everything is sitting beautifully. So I'll put 2 more pins in there. Put your pin heads to the outside of your work, and that way when you're machining, depends which way you're coming down, but as you're machining you can pull those out much more easily if they're on the side like that. And then put another one here. Okay. But we've still got this bit going on, okay? So this is the top part, and we could put a pin in, shall we? Put a pin in. Like I say, I've guessed. I haven't measured. Well, you know I haven't measured. You watched me. But I thought, oh, this will do. This will be fine. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Looks a bit weird. And we can cut this zip off now if we want to, as long as you remember to put the slider somewhere in there. But keep that open, okay? Keep that open. Do not close your zip off, but, you know, get it to there. That way it's out the way of your sewing machine foot. So this sort of bit here is our lining, and to be perfectly honest, we want this out of the way. So this is where our 1/2 inch comes in, and in the picture on your pattern, which is just there, it shows a really funny, let me see if I can show you what I did when I folded it. Oh good, yeah, I can see. So I folded this part across like that, a bit more, and I've kept the creases in where I've put the seams in. So those creases are lovely and neat where I've stitched that. There's a reason for that. And on this side I've brought it across. I can get hold of it. Oh, hold on. Let's just get this right first. Sorry guys. We need to have that the same as the other side, okay? We need for it to look like that. Actually it's not important, but let's just do that. So you're just moving all of this out of the way. So we'll move this one to there, move that one to there, make sure that doesn't sort of pull up. I'll put a pin in, I'll use a little pin just to hold that like that. Looks a bit weird, doesn't it? But what we want to do is stitch down those sides. So from there all the way along there without stopping. Now if we had our lining there, it would muck everything up, because we don't want to stitch the lining down like this at all, okay? That lining does not get stitched to this part. So we want to move those ends out of the way, and you can see what that looks like, okay? And again, you could put a little pin in there just to hold it out of the way if you think it's going to worry you when you stitch. Gosh, these pins are dreadful. They're new as well. Right. So do you see how that looks? And we're going to stitch from there down to there. And we're going to do the same on the other side. Make sure your zip teeth are together on this side, okay? Because obviously we've got that open and it'll want to stay open. So you're going to tell it who's boss and you're going to bring it together. So I'm going to change my foot out. I must admit I can stitch beautifully with this zipper foot on, even though I'll show you what it looks like. I've never seen a zipper foot like this before, but that's what it looks like, and I love it. If you could love a zipper foot, that's the one. So I'm just putting my regular 1/4 inch foot on now. Fortunately, it doesn't take long with this machine. Not too fiddly, she says. Make sure you've done it up really tight. And we're going to stitch, I don't know, top to bottom will do. So 1/4 inch seam allowance. See what I mean about the pins being on this side? Because all I need to do is pull it out, pop it into my pin cushion. So down or up the sides. Again, just pull it out, pop it in. I must admit, my sides aren't meeting up beautifully, but well, they wouldn't do, would they, doing a Facebook Live or a tutorial of any sort? They wouldn't. It's the nature of the beast. Little back stitch there. Oops. So that's going right across. You can see I've gone right across. If you've used a metal zip, please be careful when you go across here. And then all we're going to do is the other side. So I'm coming down the other side, but like I say, look how those at the end of those zips, they're not meeting at all. So let's just adjust it so they meet. Let's just pull those pins out. I know you can't see anything at the minute, but I'm just adjusting. And just make sure that those zipper teeth come together. That's it. And we'll put another pin in just to hold. That's it. And now I'll show you what that looks like so you get the idea of what I'm looking at. I have to say these pins might have to go back. It's the first time I've used them today. So those teeth are actually quite well put together. When I hold the fabric, you can see that they're quite well put together. So now I'm going from up here all the way down to the bottom. Oops. Taking my pattern with me as I go. So 1/4 inch seam allowance, don't forget. Back stitch. And get those teeth together. So just you move them so they're sitting together. Difficult for me to show you, but I'm pushing those together. You don't want a gap there. And now I'm okay just to carry on stitching. Okay. So that's the main bag done. That's what it looks like. Okay, so again, I've pulled those 1/2 inch pieces of lining out of the way, and I've gone all the way down the sides of my bag. Okay, so now of course it's the turn of the lining. Now please don't forget you need a turning gap. Okay, you need a turning gap. So one of these sides we're going to stitch just all the way down, and the next side we're going to leave a turning gap. And I suggest you leave the turning gap. Oh, my TV's just gone off, but I think we're okay. That's better. I suggest you leave your turning gap about there. Oh, that gave me a fright. These things do. Now when you stitch this, you're going to do the opposite. Now I'm not going to pin this because, in fact, let's just cut this zipper tape off now, because we don't need it. So let's cut it off. Now look, you're going to do the same as you did before, in as much that you're going to stitch down the sides with that the wadding piece now out of the way. Now of course you could do the same as what we did before, where we actually folded the fabric back, but to be perfectly honest with you, it's quite a lot to pin. So I'm just going to stitch and I'm going to leave the turning gap on the other side. Now can you see where we've got the folds of where we did our lining? And I want you to keep them like that. I'll stitch it and then I'll show you, because it's important that we keep it like that, and there's a reason. So 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to try and keep my hands out of the way. So I'm folding my wadding part back, my outer bag back, coming all the way up, and I'm just going to fold those out of the way. Let me see if I can turn it. That's better so you can see. Hopeless for me, great for you. And I want you to have a look. Can you see that that's where my fold is? Where I've stitched the lining onto the zipper tape, it naturally folds back. So you're keeping it like that. Okay, so carry on. Might be a bit wriggly now because I'm sort of sideways. I'm going to get a little pokey tool or something. Oh, there we go. Let's find a pokey tool. Because I have the most amazing stiletto, and you know I can't find it. It's there in my toolbox somewhere. Anyway, so look, I'm going to hold that fold down with my pokey tool, okay? And I'm going over that fold nicely. I'm keeping the metal part of my pokey tool, my seam unripper out of the way. And now I'm stitching on single layer fabric, and you'll think, what on earth? But all will become clear. I'm sorry, it is a little bit wriggly. You have to forgive me for that. It's demonstrating on the side is not ideal. Anyway, let me show you what that looks like. Okay, look, that's really good view. Okay, so that's what you want to stitch. That's what you want it to look like. Okay, so I'm going to do the other side. And I'm going to leave a turning gap, but my turning gap is the other side of the zip. Now I really do have to turn this round to face me. As much as I love you all, I'm going to do it selfishly for me. So 1/4 inch seam allowance, back stitch. Don't forget you're sewing over those folds in your lining. Keep your zipper foot on if you feel you can't get near enough to your, or you've not got your 1/4 inch seam allowance. There we go. My foot was on top of the zip. Now I've just come past the zip, okay? Back stitch, stop. Come down quite a bit. Why not? Back stitch all the way down and stop. Okay. So that's what it should look like. Okay, you've got I don't know if I can hold it nicely for you, but you've stitched over those folds again. I'm only laughing because I've got wriggly stitching. Dreadful. So you could, if you wanted to, snip these corners. You can take up some of this bulk off if you want to. It's always nice to do that. It's not totally necessary, but you can. Depends what you've used. You might have used foam. I'm not a lover of foam, but you might have used foam. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to do the actual boxy corners. Okay, I'm going to use a regular pen and one of my big rulers, which I really don't need to use, but there we are. So what you're doing is you're coming in 3/4 of an inch and 1/2 inch up, okay? And it's always, sorry, it's always 1/2 inch. Well, it's always 3/4 in, because look, that's really where our corners are starting from. It's starting from the seam. So this is, hopefully, this is quarter of an inch, and then you're going to do 1/2 inch here, like that. Let's get a pen that works. Let's see if we can find a pen that works. Let's have a look if I can find one quickly. All my tools are around the other side of the camera. So, like I said, when you look at it like this, there's your 1/4 inch seam allowance, okay? Yes, better. So when you measure, you're kind of ignoring that bit, but you've got to factor it in. So that's a 1/4 inch, and then you're going to do 1/2 inch, okay? This is guessing because I obviously haven't got my ruler in my hand. So you're 3/4 of an inch in, and you're 1/2 inch up, and that's from the fold. If I get the lining out of the way and I hold it like that, can you see? So you're not doing it on the zip end, you're doing it on the other end. So if you can see, the zip is up here and this is your folded bottom, if you like. So if we were to do that properly, we want to do this on all 4 corners, okay? So I think I'm pretty much okay with this. So it's not far off. It's not far off. We don't want a big bottom, okay? Nobody wants a big bottom. Well, you know, some people do. They pay for it. Anyway, you just want a nice little neat boxy bottom. So there we are. You can see how tiny that is. We'll do the same on the lining. So again, it's 3/4 of an inch from the outside where we've got our seam, and then 1/2 inch up from the fold. Okay, I'll lift it up, you can just about see it. Same on the other side. And you know what, you don't have to do this. You can leave it flat if you want. It's entirely up to you. If you put the zip in the middle, like we talked about right at the beginning, then you could box both sets of corners if you like, or none, or just these two. So we're cutting those out because, you know, you decide what you want to do up this top end here. Do you remember the distance between the fold and the zip? There's no point putting this part into a pattern because it's one of those, well, let's do it this way, let's do it that way, let's do something different. So it's not something really, unless I gave you exact measurements, and that's a bit boring sometimes. So there we are. So there's our boxy bottoms cut. So we're just going to open those up and stitch along. Okay, so you know all about that. There's a picture in the pattern. You're just going to stitch along that corner there. Okay, so I'll bring my machine in. And if you want to open those seams up and get flat seams, that's entirely up to you. You can do that if you want. It's one of those things, sometimes you must decide for yourself how pedantic you want to be with something. Life's too short sometimes. Right, so straight across. And again, all we're doing, this is the lining, and you're just opening up those seams. And you can see, even if you use a regular pen that you would write with, you're not going to see that line. Because you're going to stitch 1/4 inch away from it. So if you can't find your heat erasable, water erasable, air erasable, everything else erasable, then just use a regular pen. Nobody's going to tell you off. I'm not. Right, so box the other bottom. There we go. Let's move that out of the way. So don't forget, you've left your zip open. Fingers crossed. You've got a turning gap here, so let's turn it. Fingers crossed it's all okay. What do you reckon? Who knows? Who can tell? I hate this bit. Yeah, there'll be a dozen people out there telling me, but you can do it a better way than that. Probably. Yeah. I don't think I want to learn it. I think I'm perfectly happy doing it this way. So let me get my beautiful pokey tool. So you need to get in there and poke out your points. So we've got points at the top. Could be better. We've got points at the bottom as well. Let's do that a bit better. That's just a bit rubbish. Poking out. There we are. And then down here, just poke those points out. Don't forget, see, all the time you're doing this, you're poking the lining as well. Now, what you could do is get in between your layers, you know, where you left your turning gap, get in between your layers and actually just poke out the wadding, the outside part, the outer fabric, which is what I've done now. I've gone inside between my lining and my outer because I can. Right, and then you're just going to push that lining in, tell it who's boss, push it into the corners. Don't forget, you are going to stitch the turning gap, okay? I will do that another day. But I need to show you something else first. I'm going to give it an iron, I think. So don't forget also, at the top here, just get your fingers in there and move that lining up as well. And just get that super neat. Right. So there's our pouch made, but I want you to have a look inside. Hopefully mine are not too scruffy. Let me just cut, there's a few threads here, so let's cut that off. So inside, let me just manoeuvre myself. Do you remember the folds that we had and all of that? Well, that's what it looks like, okay? Now, you could hand stitch that little bit, or you could use some fabric glue, because that's not attached to anything. Because if you remember, we left it unattached. We stitched across a single layer of fabric. You might want to stitch it from the outside if you want. I don't think I would want to do that. I think I'd want to hand stitch it. So both of those, both ends will be like that. I'm being quite brave because I haven't looked at this before I've shown it to you. We've got a few loose threads. Let's get rid of them. They always look ugly. And that's what the other end looks like. Okay, so not too bad considering. Because you know when you demonstrate, everything's always rubbish. Because you're always trying to get it absolutely perfect and you never can. So that's what they look like inside. So you just need to do a little bit of hand stitching there, or to be honest, a little dab of fabric glue is ideal. Okay, and fabric glue is designed to go in the washing machine, guys, so you'll be all right with that. So there is our little pouch made. So let's just, and like I say, get your hand in there and give it a push, because your lining needs to be told where it's got to go. But that looks really nice, doesn't it? So let's go back to the front camera. Hopefully I can work all the technology. Yes, I can. I love it. I love it when the plan comes together. You've no idea the stress that I go through trying to get technology to work. And we discovered something, John and I, well, me really, no, it was John as well. We discovered something a couple of days ago, which has made our lives so much better when it comes to doing these lives for you. So look, now you can get your iron in. You can do the zip up if you want. And you can put those top creases in. So you know we've folded it over. No point ironing it until you've got it on the right side. And then really push those seams out. Do you know what? Shall I give this one away? I haven't stitched the turning gap. Okay, so if you put your name down and you win this, the turning gap will not be closed. Let's give it an iron from the outside. Now look, was that scary? Don't think it was scary. If it was scary, then you can re-watch this video as many times as you want. And where I flip the fabric, where I get the fabric to meet, where you're putting the right side to which side, all of that. Just watch it again, because you'll pick it up and listen to what I say. Listen to the words, because there's the clue. Anyway, what do you think? Isn't it pretty? And I have to say, if you've got a fat quarter, you can make at least 2 of these. And lining, so two fat quarters, two fat quarters, one for the lining, one for the outer, a little bit of wadding. But it can all be made from scraps, can't it? In fact, do some scraps, do some patchwork and put one together. But isn't it super cute? And of course you could hang a little charm from the little zip slider there, or a tassel, or whatever. You can really go to town with it. So that is Making It Monday, Project 12, and it's the slim pouch. So don't forget, it's a free download on my website. Go to lizzycurtis.com, where along the tabs it'll say shop. Just hover on that and a great long drop down will drop down of all my different patterns that I do. But I think it's at the very top or the next one down. It says free patterns. Pop in there and all 12 projects are there for you to download. You can have them all in one go. Just put free in the coupon box and then you get them for free. And they're there for you. And that's what we're going to do every week. We're going to find a little project to make. There's a lot of times I try to do projects without a zip. It's nothing too complicated. And I've got a little project in my head that is really super easy that I want to share with you. But oftentimes it does involve a zip. There's lots of little projects that we can do. So get practicing, get those zips on a roll, and then you'll be able to join in and have some of the fun as well, because it is fun. It is fun. I think we're having fun. So I rather like it. I'll give it away though, I promise. So you'll have to stitch, whoever wins it, you'll have to stitch up. This is on Facebook only. You have to stitch up the ends and stitch up the turning gap. Soz, I can't do everything. Anyway, I'm going to have a look at my comments on my Facebook Live. For those of you that have been watching on YouTube, Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute hoot, and I'll see you all again next Monday.